The fluorescent lights hummed above the aisles, casting their pale glow on the quiet shelves of the small-town store. It was the kind of shop that had seen generations come and go, half convenience store, half general supplier, and wholly stitched into the fabric of the neighborhood. People didn't just buy flour, canned beans, or cleaning supplies here. They bought time, memory, and familiarity. It wasn't a place where receipts mattered. In fact, many regulars walked out with unpaid IOUs, their debts scribbled in a ledger kept behind the counter. The old-timers trusted the store, and the store trusted them. But then came Karen. Karen was not from the neighborhood. She was the kind of woman who arrived like a storm front. Manicured nails, sunglasses perched permanently on her head, and a voice that carried 2 aisles over even when she was just asking a question. She had recently moved into a rental down the road, a sprawling home left empty by a family who'd moved closer to the city. And Karen, like a misplaced puzzle piece, didn't quite belong. Everyone could see it the moment she set foot in the store. Her first appearance was harmless enough. Complaints about how the produce wasn't organic, how the bread was too dense, how the water bottles weren't the alkaline-rich brand she preferred. People smiled politely, rolled their eyes in secret, and went about their day. But Karen didn't like being ignored, and when she didn't get attention, she manufactured it. On a Tuesday afternoon, just as the store prepared to close early for inventory, Karen stormed in with a plastic bag clutched in her hand. "I need a refund," she declared, the sound of her voice hitting the walls like a slap. Behind the counter, Daniel, the owner, looked up from his ledger. Daniel had inherited the store from his father, who had inherited it from his own. He was patient to a fault, slow to anger, and careful with words. "What's the problem, ma'am?" he asked gently. Karen pulled out a box of cereal, half crushed and suspiciously damp. "This," she spat, "it was stale when I opened it. Absolutely disgusting. I want my money back." Daniel glanced at the box. It was a brand he didn't even carry. He frowned softly. "I'm sorry, but we don't sell this product. Maybe you bought it somewhere else." Karen's lips pressed into a tight line. "Are you calling me a liar?" The quiet hum of the refrigerator units filled the awkward pause. A couple of regulars standing behind exchanged wary looks. Daniel shook his head. "No, ma'am, I'm saying it's not from here. I can't refund what I didn't sell." That should have ended the matter. But Karen's ego thrived on escalation. Her voice rose from every corner of the store. "So that's how you treat new customers? You think because I don't have your little receipt that I'm just trying to scam you?" She slammed the box onto the counter with such force that flakes of cereal spilled out. Daniel sighed. "Without proof of purchase, I really can't." "Unbelievable!" Karen shrieked, cutting him off. "I spend my money in this dump, and you insult me? This is discrimination. Do you treat everyone like this, or just me?" The room had gone still. An elderly man who'd come in for his daily newspaper lowered it slowly, watching the scene unfold. A young mother tugged her child closer, uncomfortable with the tension. Daniel stayed calm, though his patience was wearing thin. "Ma'am, I'm not insulting you. But the truth is, that's not our product. I can't help you." Karen's eyes flashed with something sharp, a mixture of rage and entitlement. "You'll regret this," she hissed, snatching up the soggy box and storming out the door. The bell above the entrance jingled softly as she left, but the silence she left behind was heavy. Daniel rubbed his temples. The regulars murmured, shaking their heads. "She'll be back," one of them muttered. And they were right. Karen returned 2 days later, this time with another item. A bottle of shampoo, half empty, cap missing. She claimed it had burned her scalp and demanded a full refund, plus compensation for emotional damages. Again, it wasn't a product the store carried. Again, Daniel refused. The third time, she brought an old toaster, scorched and clearly used for years. When Daniel refused again, she threatened to call the Better Business Bureau. It became a pattern. Every week, Karen would march into the store with some random item and demand her rights as a customer. Sometimes she claimed she had bought it months ago, sometimes she claimed she had lost her receipt, and sometimes she didn't even bother with excuses, just shouted until people gave her attention. Daniel, ever patient, kept refusing, but the community began to grow restless. Karen's tantrums weren't just disrupting the peace, they were chipping away at the store's reputation. One day, as Daniel was closing up, he found a note taped to the glass door. "This store cheats customers. Beware." The handwriting was unmistakably Karen's. That night, Daniel sat at his kitchen table with the lights dimmed, staring at the note. His wife Clara watched him with worry. "You can't keep letting her do this," she said softly. "I know," he replied, voice heavy. "But if I fight back the wrong way, she'll twist it. People like her, they thrive on drama. They want a reaction." Clara reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Then don't give her drama. Give her the truth, but make sure it's the kind she can't run from." Daniel nodded slowly, an idea forming in the quiet corners of his mind. A week later, the plan was in motion. The store announced, in small printed flyers and word of mouth through regulars, that it would be closed the following Saturday for a full-day audit and system upgrade. Signs went up on the windows, clear and unmistakable. "Closed all day Saturday. No exceptions." The reason wasn't entirely fabricated. Daniel had indeed been planning upgrades, but the timing was deliberate. He suspected Karen wouldn't be able to resist the urge to stage another scene. And if she tried when the store was officially closed, the trap would spring. Sure enough, Saturday arrived, and with it the stillness of locked doors. The lights inside were off, but Daniel and Clara remained within, unseen, with a few trusted regulars who had volunteered to help with the audit. At exactly noon, the sharp screech of tires broke the silence. Karen's SUV rolled into the parking lot, far too fast for the empty space. She stepped out, heels clicking like gunshots against the pavement. In her hands, a wrinkled shopping bag stuffed with random goods. She marched to the locked door, tugged it hard, and found it sealed shut. Her face twisted. She banged on the glass. "Open up! I demand a refund!" Inside, Karen's hand tightened around Daniel's arm. "She came," she whispered. Daniel nodded grimly. "Now let's see if she damns herself." Karen's banging grew louder. She shouted into the empty street as though the whole world was her audience. "This is illegal! You can't close without notice! I bought things here and I want my money back!" She held up a dented pot, shaking it in the air like evidence. From behind the darkened glass, cameras recorded every word. Daniel had installed them earlier in the week, ensuring there would be proof. Karen's voice echoed across the lot. "If you don't open this door, I'll call the police! I'll sue! You hear me? This isn't over!" She pulled out her phone and, true to her word, dialed. The sound of distant sirens soon cut through the afternoon air. Karen straightened her posture, triumphant. When the patrol car rolled up, she waved her arms theatrically. "Officer, over here! I've been scammed!" The officer stepped out, confusion plain on their faces as they took in the locked, clearly closed store. "What's the issue, ma'am?" one officer asked. Karen launched into her performance, flailing her arms, waving her pot, spinning tales of being cheated and insulted. She demanded they break into the store to get her refund. The officer frowned. "Ma'am, the sign says the store is closed today." "They can't just close when they feel like it," Karen screeched. I demand justice! They're hiding in there! I know it!" Inside, Daniel watched calmly, waiting for the perfect moment. And when it came, he stepped out. The lock clicked, the door opened, and Daniel emerged into the daylight with a folder in his hand. Karen froze, thrown off by his sudden appearance. "Good afternoon, officers. I think you'll want to see this." Karen's smug smile flickered, then faltered. Because in that folder was everything. Recorded videos of her false refund attempts, copies of products the store had never sold, and witness statements from half the town. And as Karen's voice caught in her throat, the real reckoning began. The moment Daniel stepped outside, the atmosphere shifted. The officers who had been listening with half patience to Karen's shrieking turned their attention to him. His calm presence contrasted so starkly with her frenzy that it was like watching a storm crash against a cliff, loud, violent, but powerless to break it. "Sir, do you own this store?" the taller officer asked. "Yes," Daniel replied, his voice steady. "My family's owned this store for 3 generations, and I believe I can clear up this misunderstanding." He held up the folder. Karen scoffed, folding her arms dramatically. "Don't listen to him. He's a liar. He's hiding behind paperwork." The officer raised a hand to silence her, a gesture that made her flush red with indignation. "Go on," he said to Daniel. Daniel opened the folder with deliberate calm, flipping to the first page. "This customer," he didn't even glance at Karen, which only enraged her further, "has come into my store at least 7 times in the past month, each time demanding a refund for items that were never purchased here. On 3 occasions, I calmly explained that the items were not even products we carry. On 2 other occasions, she brought goods so old or damaged they couldn't possibly have come from us. Each time she caused a scene in front of other customers." "That's a lie!" Karen shouted. Daniel still didn't look at her. He placed photos on the hood of the patrol car. Each one showed Karen in the store, clutching different products, her face twisted in mid-complaint. "These stills are from our new security cameras. We installed them earlier in the week, anticipating she might come back. They document her attempts, word for word." The shorter officer leaned closer, scanning the photos. "These look pretty clear," he murmured, but Daniel wasn't finished. He flipped to the next section, signed statements. "Here are accounts from several customers who witnessed her behavior firsthand, and here," he tapped the next set of pages, "are records from my supplier. You'll note that none of the products she attempted to return were ever on our shelves."
Karen's voice rose another octave. "He's making this all up! Those people are lying for him! This is a conspiracy!" One of the volunteers stepped out from the store at that moment. Mr. Green, the elderly man who bought his newspaper every morning. He walked slowly but deliberately, his cane tapping the pavement. "It's not a lie," he said, his voice quavering but strong enough to cut through Karen's noise. "I've seen it myself. Every week she comes in, and every week she lies. We all know it." Behind him, others followed. The young mother with her child, the high school kid who worked part-time stocking shelves, even Clara. They formed a quiet, undeniable wall of witnesses. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Her theatrics, so effective when she commanded a room alone, collapsed against the weight of the community standing together. The taller officer's face hardened. "Ma'am, you called us here accusing this man of fraud, but from what I see, the evidence points in the opposite direction." Karen's voice cracked. "No, you don't understand. He's tricking you. He's just trying to protect his little dump of a store. I'm the victim here." Daniel finally turned his eyes on her, calm but sharp. "The only victim here is this town, ma'am. We've been patient, we've been polite, but you've tried to humiliate us, to tarnish the reputation of something we've all built together. You thought your voice was louder than the truth, but the truth is standing here, clear as day. The officers exchanged a glance. The shorter one spoke carefully. "Ma'am, making false reports to law enforcement is a serious matter. You could be charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, even defamation." Karen's face blanched. For a moment, it looked like she might faint, but instead she doubled down. "I'll sue all of you. I'll sue the police. I'll sue this store. I'll sue this entire miserable town." The officers didn't move. One simply wrote something in his notepad. The taller one spoke again, his tone firm. "Ma'am, you need to leave the premises immediately, ma'am. If you return here and cause another disturbance, you will be arrested. Do you understand?" The finality of his words struck her harder than any insult could. Her power, built on shouting and intimidation, had no place against quiet authority backed by evidence. She sputtered, cursed under her breath, then stormed back to her SUV. She slammed the door so hard the frame rattled, revved the engine, and tore out of the parking lot like a retreating animal licking its wounds. The silence that followed was profound. Everyone turned to Daniel. The officers nodded. "You did the right thing," the taller one said. "You gathered proof, stayed calm, and let the facts speak. That's how justice should work." When they left, the townspeople lingered, their relief turning to admiration. "You handled that perfectly," Clara whispered, squeezing Daniel's arm. But Daniel shook his head. "It's not about me, it's about all of us. She thought she could break us apart, turn us against each other. Instead, she showed us how strong we are when we stand together." The following days proved him right. Word spread quickly, not just about Karen's humiliation, but about the way the town had defended their store. People came in not just to shop, but to thank Daniel. Sales doubled, not because of sympathy, but because loyalty had deepened. The store wasn't just a building with shelves, it was theirs, a shared pillar of the community. As for Karen, her presence in the neighborhood grew thin. She tried a few more times to stir trouble, writing online reviews, whispering rumors, but each one was met with calm rebuttals backed by evidence. Screenshots, photos, and witnesses dismantled her claims before they could take root. The power she thought she wielded, the ability to bend truth with her voice, was gone. Without it, she was just another loud stranger in a town that no longer cared to listen. Months later, the rental house she occupied went dark. The blinds stayed closed, the driveway empty. One day a moving truck came, loaded up her things, and drove away. No one came to wave goodbye. No one even noticed, except to breathe a little easier. Life in the store returned to normal, though something subtle had changed. People lingered longer, not out of necessity, but out of kinship. Neighbors talked to neighbors, laughter filled the aisles, and even the old fluorescent hum seemed warmer. The ordeal had tested them, but it had also reminded them that their strength wasn't in avoiding storms, it was in weathering them together. One evening, as Daniel locked up, he found himself standing alone in the parking lot. The sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. He looked at the sign above the door, the same sign his father had once hung there, the same sign his grandfather had polished every Sunday. He thought of Karen's words, her threats, her fury. For a moment, he almost pitied her. Almost. Because beneath all her noise was something small and hollow, something that had tried to fill itself by tearing others down. But the town hadn't let her. Daniel smiled faintly, slid the keys into his pocket, and walked home to his family. The store would be there tomorrow, the people would be there tomorrow, and the truth, quiet, steady, undeniable, would always outlast the noise. And in the end, that was the sweetest revenge of all.